Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the RNE program and its recent changes. I'm also going to be providing you guys with an actual real solution. So please bear with me. Don't lose hope. I promise you, there is still a way in which you can get your Mexican residency without providing any kind of financial solvency. Again, as a reminder, the RNE program has been modified. It's not over. I know for many of you guys out there in the audience, it basically technically is over, but I can assure you that it's not. The only thing that this will affect is your future plans on how and when you will get your residency. In this video, I will show you how to get your residency even if you do not meet any financial requirements. Because I know for many of you guys out there in the audience, the RNE program was the only option for residency in Mexico. And you were devastated to hear the news of the changes because, well, for the majority of you out there, it basically means that the program is over. But why is it over for so many of you? Well, simply because of how the RNE program worked before March 14th. Back then, the only requirement for residency was a valid passport and entry into Mexico sometime in between 2013 and 2023 and paying the government fees. And that's it. You had your residency. In fact, many of you guys were living in Mexico waiting the required amount of time and continuously renewing your FMM every 180 days in order to stay compliant, only to now have the rug pulled out from under you when the Mexican government changed how the RNE program worked. And well, how did it change? Well, as of March 14th of 2025, the RNE program is currently only available for those who entered Mexico at any point in 2022 or earlier and have never left, meaning your FMM or your residency expired and you never left Mexico since you arrived before, again, December 31st of 2022. Therefore, everyone in the audience that left the country for any reason, including just to renew your FMM, well, now you are suddenly out of luck. And I'm even sure very upset because if you would have just remained in Mexico with your expired FMM this whole time and never left, well, then you would still be able to qualify for the RNE program right now. But instead, you are now disqualified from obtaining your residency through this program by doing as you were told. Bruh. Okay, Jose, that's great. You still haven't offered a solution to getting residency in Mexico without any kind of financial requirements. So let's get to that very simple solution that you guys have been waiting for this whole time. In fact, it is so simple that I have to give you more context. But I'm going to wait until after I give you the solution because I already know you guys are on the edge of your seats waiting for me to explain the actual solution to you. The reason I have to provide so much context after I explain it to you is because I know that there are many people out there in the audience that will challenge me on this. In fact, this is why I took so much time and effort to put this video together. I know everybody else out there was reporting on the news the day that it happened and right after it happened, but you know me, I like to really investigate things and dig a little deeper before I blab. Again, you already know, once I start blabbing, I can't shut up. So, so with that said, this is why I put this video together, because I'm not just going to be blabbing, I'm bringing receipts, all right? And not only that, I doubled and I triple checked everything with José Novelo. That's right, everyone's favorite Mexican lawyer, just to make sure that everything is 100% legal. In fact, he advised me to tell everyone out there in the audience to read Articles 69, 132, 133, and 134 of the Mexican immigration law for even more context because, well, that is the main foundation to everything I'm about to talk about right now. So, with all that said, let's get right into it. Believe it or not, these changes to the program will only make it easier for you. Bruh. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I'm actually trying to record a serious video here. All right, let's get into it. Believe it or not, now with the changes to the program, it will actually make it a lot easier for everyone out there in the audience to get their residency, because now you can just come to Mexico, get your FMM tourist visa, and then just let it expire, and presto, you qualify for residency in a few years, either through the RNE program or whatever they change the name of the program to in the future. Because, well, stay tuned and you'll see what I mean. I already know what you're thinking. Wait, Jose. The RNE program specifically states that I must have entered prior to 2022. So how can I get residency if I enter Mexico in 2025 or in the future? That's a great question. Simply put, the RNE program is nothing new. In fact, it has been around since the year 2000 in one shape, form, or another. In my research, I was able to dig up almost all of the programs dating back to the year 2000. To the year 2000. But I will spare you all of that and just concentrate on the last decade or so. The program's name has always been changing, but basically remains the same with each new edition. All of you guys out there in the audience, you guys only know the program by its current name, which is the RNE program, also known as El Registro Nacional de Extranjeros. But back in 2017 and 2015, the program was called PTRM, also known as El Programa Temporal de Regularización Migratoria. As you guys can see, these are links straight from the INM website. These are all the official web pages and documents from the Mexican federal government. This is straight from Mexican immigration website. Again, all the links to everything you are seeing in this video will be provided down below in the description of this video so that you yourself can do your own research. All these documents prove that this program has been around for a long time. In fact, as far back as the year 2000, from the year 2000 all the way through 2017, this program, every time it was, put into place, it was called PTRM. From my research, it seems that for some odd reason, in 2019, there was no version of this program. It was just not renewed. But in 2021, it was brought back, but this time under a new name, which was the RNE program, okay? And this program now had a few different rules. From the year 2000 all the way to 2017, the requirements were simply to have a valid passport, an expired FMM or temporary residency card with at least, around 2 years or more of expiration, some sort of proof of residency in Mexico, such as a rental agreement, a CFE bill, or something of the like. And again, of course, paying the fees and so on and so forth. But depending on the year, depend on what, the requirements were. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but basically it was just basic proof that you were living in Mexico and never left, and you just don't have residency. You don't have any kind of paperwork to allow you to function in Mexico. So what this program was basically for throughout the years was to allow people that were living in Mexico, they made Mexico their home, but for many reasons, they just never obtained residency. You already know one of the main reasons why many immigrants do not get residency is because they do not meet the financial requirements. So this is how all immigrants, most immigrants, are able to get residency in Mexico. Because there's a lot of immigrants that come to Mexico. What, you think every one of those immigrants has to have a fat pension, all right, and a fat Social Security or make a lot of money to move here? No, obviously not. There's a lot of people from all over the world in Mexico. But I digress. At the end of the day, this is just like a simple amnesty type program that Mexico has and has always renewed every several years. Again, if you go back to Articles 69, 132, 133, 134, and you check those out, I'm telling you, it describes exactly what this program is. Okay? Because long story short, what those articles say is that Mexico, because of humanitarian reasons, has to offer the people that don't have residency. Simple as that. And this is a program that allows people to get residency that have no other ways or means to get residency. They're not going to force you to marry a Mexican, and they're not going to force you to do things that you don't want to do. Again, If you already came to Mexico, you're living in Mexico, you have a business in Mexico, you're contributing to Mexico in one shape, form, or another. Again, you might just be receiving your social security check and you're just, again, spending all that money here in Mexico. Listen, that's enough. That's more than enough reason for them to give you residency. Why wouldn't they give you residency? You're already residing here. But anyways, with all that said, that was the PTRM program that was in place from the year 2000 all the way to 2017. But in the year 2020, we had COVID. And due to that emergency, well, emergency measures were set into place. And as it pertained to residency, well, there was many people out there that couldn't leave the country. As you guys already know, basically the whole world was paralyzed, okay? And so there was a lot of people that were stuck here. And so the Mexican government provided a solution, which was the RNE program, which essentially was a copy of the PTRM program, except for one thing. Now you could actually leave the country as many times as you want, and the only requirement was that you had some sort of stamp in your passport about 2 years prior. So if you applied in 2021, for example, then you needed at least one entry into Mexico at some point before 2019. All right. So by the time that 2025 rolled around, well, the current program was still active and all you needed was a stamp on your passports between 2013 to 2023. That's all you needed. That is until March 14th of 2025, when all of a sudden, literally overnight, the RNE program was changed. In fact, it was converted back into the PTRM program. As already discussed earlier, in order to qualify for the PTRM, you need to be living in Mexico on an expired visa for over 2 years without leaving before you can apply. So long story short, the only thing that happened on March 14th is that the special stipulation that allowed you to leave the country during that waiting period all of a sudden expired. In fact, one could argue that this makes things much easier for many people now, because during the time of the RNE program from early 2021 all the way to early 2025, people had to constantly renew their FMMs. For many people, this proved to be extremely challenging, especially if you cannot travel due to health, age, or other reasons. In fact, as I researched this topic for the video, I realized that the only thing that the RNE program actually provided, different from the PTRM program, was the privilege for you to travel freely instead of having to stay put. Because the reality is that the PTRM/RNE program is really just an amnesty program. So technically, if you could and can afford to travel, out of the country, well, then you can probably afford to get your residency through traditional means. This program is for people who do not have resources or the ability to leave or move around much. Again, just like any immigrant out there, most immigrants, they barely make it to their final destination and then they're just trying to survive. And then residency is something that's in the back of their mind. And so this is kind of like, again, a situation for everyone else out there that, well, residency is kind of like on the back of your mind. You know that you need it, obviously, especially if you're going to live here or any country you move to. But, for most people that are real immigrants, they're really just escaping or leaving whatever situation you're in. You're really just thinking about survival more than anything else. Just to give a little history lesson, all this program was, since it was initiated back in the year 2000 all the way till now, it was just a way to get people living in Mexico that don't have their papers for them to get their papers. That's it. It's as simple as that. Because, well, once you have your papers, now you can open up a bank account. Now you can, maybe get a lease somewhere else, meaning you can rent somewhere else. You can do many other things. You can buy a car. There's many things. Okay, obviously, you can get a business license. So for a lot of people, it's important to have their residency. All right. So, but knowing how Mexico lives, you guys already watched my channel long enough. You know, you don't really need your papers to live out here. You don't really need much of a digital imprint. Okay. You can live out here basically almost off grid. I did so for many years. Again, let's not forget, if I never got married, then I would have used the PTRM program simply because, well, I had no resources and I had to obtain residency and there was no other way for me. And again, I cannot prove any kind of financial solvency, but I could definitely prove to the Mexican government that I was living in Mexico and contributing to society by living and working in peace and not bothering anybody and spending all my money here. So that's reason enough to get residency. Again, for those of you guys out there in the audience that have been following me for years, you already know I would always hint about this residency option, but I never really talked about it. Well, and the reason was because, well, the RNE program existed and that was a way easier, and that was the program that was in place. So there was no reason to really go deep into this. But now that the RNE program as we know it is basically over, well, this is the actual way for you to obtain residency without providing any kind of financial solvency. All you need to prove is that you've been living here and never left. So to recap, the RNE program is not over. It has been modified back to its original form, and it is only available for people who have entered Mexico at any point in 2022 or earlier and have never left, meaning your FMM or residency card expired and you never left Mexico since the expiration date of, again, prior to December 31st, 2022. So again, to reiterate, the solution is, well, when you're ready to move to Mexico, you just move to Mexico. And unfortunately, you're going to have to live uncomfortably like an immigrant, just like an immigrant that lives in the USA with no papers and has to deal with a lot of uncomfortable situations until they get their papers. Well, it's the same thing. You're going to be in a similar situation until, well, you're able to get your papers. And when will that be? Well, it'll be in a few years whenever they, have another version of the RNE/PTRM program, set into place. Right now, this version of the RNE program is still going because, well, it goes by date. So as of now, it seems like that this program, the RNE program, as of right now, it'll probably expire towards the end of the year, and then there's not going to be any kind of program. All right. And then what's going to happen is that, like, maybe 2 years down the line in 2027, something like that, around 2028, who knows? All right. But at some point in that future, they'll come out with another program. And at that point, well, that's when you go out and get your residency. Because what the program really is that basically the Mexican government just puts out a memo, to everybody out here living in Mexico saying, hey, I know that you're out there and you're living without residency and you need your residency. So from this date in 2027 to this date in 2027, you can go on ahead, come into the immigration office and just provide the three things that we're asking for, which is your valid passport, an expired residency form, and some fees and whatever else they might ask for. But again, we've already discussed what they could possibly ask for. And then that's it. You get your residency. So with all that said, please proceed at your own risk. There is no guarantee that there will be a new program in the future once this version of the RNE program finally expires. But with all the evidence I have dug up alongside Article 69, 132, 133, 134 of the Mexican immigration law, which are not going to be changing anytime soon, it is safe to say that you can get your residency in the future through a similar program as the RNE/PTRM program. It just might be under a different name. Again, let me reiterate what Article 69, 132, 133, and 134 of the Mexican immigration law say. And that is that the Mexican government has to provide the ability for people out there that don't have the means to get residency to get residency. That's it. And so that's why they have this program, because the law says that they have to have a program. They have to figure something out. So that's how it all intertwines. Again, you can all read it yourself. You can translate it yourself. I would love anyone out there in the audience that, would love to challenge me on this, or José Novelo, please do. Okay. Because we need to open the conversation and we need to let everybody know what's really going on out there. And of course, we're going to have José Novelo on the show. You already know how we do in a live stream in the future. So stay tuned for that. In the next few weeks, he'll definitely come on and we'll definitely be talking about this more in depth and taking your questions. Okay. So again, stay tuned for that. Now, luckily for you, Mexico does not consider you an illegal alien simply because your papers expired. They simply call you irregular, which is why the process of getting your residency is called getting regularized. Okay? It is a regularization process. Now you know why it's called the regularization program. Now, of course, living in Mexico on an expired FMM or an expired residency card can be challenging, but it can be done. Again, my time in Mexico was a bit challenging with an expired FMM, but honestly, it was fine. I documented the whole experience on my channel on how I was able to basically be out here in Mexico with, again, no paperwork, with no bank account, no nothing. And I was able to survive. Again, it was not easy and it was an immense challenge, but I'm here. And I survived, and now I'm here helping you guys out in return. So I mean, come on, it can definitely be done. Again, as I have discussed on the channel for many years, no authority figure in Mexico will be asking you for your papers in any circumstance, except for one, which is when you're traveling. So just be aware of that, okay? You can live under the radar in Mexico with no problems as long as you don't get on a plane or on a bus to go to another Mexican state or just anywhere, again, away from where you're living. Because the reality is that as soon as you get on a plane, well, again, they're asking you for your papers, obviously. But if you're getting on a bus, well, everything's fine up until you get to one of those immigration checkpoints that are all over Mexico at this point. And they're going to get on the bus and they're probably going to ask you for your papers. And if you don't have, any kind of proof that you are legal in Mexico. So for example, for me, I got no problem. I got my permanent residency card. I'm good to go. All right. But if you don't have, for example, a residency card, you're going to have your passport, and you're going to have to also have your FMM. Okay. Now, I know today in today's world, the FMM is digital, and you might go through the airport and they just don't give you an FMM. They'll scan your passport and they give you a receipt, and that's it. Well, that is enough because, again, worst case scenario, what they do is that they just check your passport and they check immediately on the computer that they got there. Mexico has computers, believe it or not. Okay, they got technologically advanced out here. Anywho's, so they just check on the computer real quick and they'll be like, yeah, okay, you're here legally. They say your visa has not expired, your FMM has not expired, you're good to go, and that's it. And then you'll be on your way. But if it is expired, get ready because they are detaining people and they are deporting people. Listen, for years, okay, I've been talking about this and I used to go insane. I used to go mad. I used to get so upset when other YouTubers out there would report, oh, they're, deporting people and they're detaining people and things like that because, well, back then that was not true and it was not happening. But in today's world, it's actually happening. It really is happening. It's happening for many reasons that we've discussed on the channel in recent months. A lot of it has to do with the presidential elections in both countries. A lot of it has to do with the immigration, situation. Again, the migration situation that both countries have been dealing with, and so on and so forth. So these days, things have changed dramatically. And so now they're definitely checking for papers. All right. So just make sure you got your papers. But again, other than that, if you're not planning on traveling by bus or plane or anything, and you just are going to stay put in whatever city you pick, and you're just going to wait it out, just live there and wait it out until your time comes for you to get your residency, you got nothing to worry about. Nowhere at all, and no place does anyone ever ask you for your papers. No one is ever going to ask you for anything. Again, outside of the fact, let's say that you're going to go rent somewhere, let's say you're going to sign a rental agreement. Well, they're definitely going to ask you for your passport. Very rarely do they ask you for your visa or your visa status. So you got nothing to worry about there. But again, if you need to receive money from, let's say, MoneyGram or Western Union, again, all you need is your passport. Basically, anything you do, all you need is your passport. Never once did they ever ask me for my visa, my FMM tourist permit or whatever. So again, you can definitely sneak under the radar and just live your normal life out here without anything to worry about. You're just going to be irregular. All right. So sure, you can eat some prunes, but that's not going to fix your regularness. All right. You're going to have to wait it out and just wait for the program to, again, get renewed in a few years and then get your residency through that way. And again, the only thing that could change this is if, for whatever reason, the Mexican president and government makes a dramatic change to the Constitution, to the Mexican immigration law, which I'm going to tell you right now, I sincerely doubt, because this president is very immigrant friendly, okay? They just are, okay? This government is very immigrant friendly. It's very friendly to these kind of situations. So you really got nothing to worry about in my estimation. But again, I've already warned you. You have to come out here at your own risk. When I came out here at my own risk and I figured it out. So you're going to now have to be in that position just like any other immigrant moving to any other country. So there you have it, folks. The solution for your Mexican residency without financial requirements. Again, attempt at your own risk. FYI, make sure if this is something that you're going to be doing in the future, that you have, your valid passport, okay? Make sure that your passport is going to be valid for many years to come. The last thing you want is to have your passport expire while you're out here, and now you're really out of luck, okay? You're definitely someone's going to be deporting you one way or the other, whether it's the U.S. government, when you go to the consulate, or, the Mexican government, whatever it is. But, you can't really do anything without your passport, because that is the only ID that counts out here. No one cares about your driver's license. No one cares about any other ID. The only thing that they care about is your passport. That is the only ID you have. All right. Because even when you get your residency card for really serious matters, you need your passport. So just make sure that your passport is valid for many years to come if you're going to be attempting this. All right. Now, for those of you guys out there in the audience that do not want to wait that long and do not want to go through this kind of risk, then you still have other options available, such as getting your residency at a consulate by providing financial solvency. Again, just a reminder to everyone out there in the audience, if you are of retirement age, the economic threshold for you is much lower than the official numbers. Please inquire with the consulates you are thinking of using and ask them what the requirements are for retirees. The Mexican government just wants to make sure that you can take care of yourself and will not be a burden to the country. I know people that have actually gotten their residencies at a consulate with simply, 1,200 Social Security check, and that's it. All right. So don't lose hope. Just inquire with the consulates. Again, I've talked to you guys about this many times, as have other channels, that each consulate is different and you might be having to shop around for the consulate that's right for you. But again, for a lot of you guys out there in the audience, a consulate is still an option. Just look into it a little deeper. Basically, how it works is that the younger you are, the more money you got to make in order to get your residency. The older you are, the less money you need to be having coming in every single month. So again, just quick reminder of that. But please, again, all those numbers that they provide at the consulate, they're basically, arbitrary. They're just like, again, depends on who you are, depends on how they're going to use those numbers. All right. So just keep that in mind. Again, just inquire with the consulates, because for a lot of you guys, you'll be pleasantly surprised how easy you could actually get your residency through traditional means. And lastly, remember, there are many other ways for you to get your Mexican residency. I got my residency, and soon enough, I'm going to get my citizenship through marriage. So that's just one of the routes. But there are many other ways in which you can get your residency. So if you're interested in finding out all of your residency options besides what we talked about here today, then please check out the video linked in the description at the end of this video. Again, I'm going to link it at the end of this video, and down below you're going to have a link, to check that out alongside every reference to everything you saw and everything we talked about here in today's video, so that you can see for yourself. You can do your own research. In fact, you can spread this like a virus, spread it to everyone and anyone you know, and maybe even let every other YouTuber and facilitator out there know about, what their options are, because guess what? No one left behind. Sure, there's been a little change, but it doesn't mean that you cannot get your residency. And it doesn't mean that everyone else out there cannot also get their residency in the future. So again, stay positive. Again, we're going to be all right. I remember many years ago when the RNE program first came out, I was out there telling everybody about it. And so many YouTube channels and so many people on Facebook and all over the internet were hating on me because, well, they thought that it was an illegal program because they could not believe that such a thing could exist. And then again, guess what? All the way up until now, how many people out there has gotten their residency, throughout, Mexico because of the RNE program, and how many facilitators out there have made a lot of money, okay, by being able to now provide this option for you guys, all right? So with all that said, guys, well, now it's up to you to figure out what you're going to do. Okay, your plans have changed. The RNE program has changed. Things have changed, but it doesn't mean that it's over by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, now that you have all the information at your disposal, now it's up to you to figure out exactly how you're going to proceed going forward. And now you know that you really got nothing to worry about. One shape, form, or another, you're going to be getting your residency. Whether you're watching my other video talking about, your other residency options, whether you wait it out and get your residency through the RNE/PTRM, or you go to a consulate, or whatever it is you do, you already know that you got nothing to worry about anymore. If you want to live in Mexico and you want to get your residency in Mexico, you got nothing to worry about. In fact, the last thing I'm going to say about financial solvency, which I found this out in my research, is that simply put, if you buy a home in Mexico, whatever the price it is, that basically is almost on automatic with your residency when you go to a consulate because, well, you already have a home in Mexico and you plan on living in that home in Mexico. So, of course, they're going to give you residency. And, well, you already know, we've all learned a lot of things together in this episode and in all my other episodes. So, with all that being said, guys, I really want to give a big, huge shout out to all of you guys out there in the audience that have helped me throughout the years, grow this channel to, again, we're past 30,000 subscribers. How crazy is that? All the people out there helping support the show on Patreon. You guys are members to the YouTube channel. Everyone that sends a few bucks here or there, buys a t-shirt. You already know who you are. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of your heart, because if it wasn't for all of you guys out there with all the support throughout the years, well, I wouldn't be here right now to tell you guys about all the things that I told you about in this video and in all my other videos. As you guys already know, I'm an encyclopedia of knowledge, all right? So please, for more information on basically any topic out there, check out the rest of my channel and check out my website for more information on how you can move out here to Mexico and, again, have the best life you could ever dream of. So, with all that being said, guys, you already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.